Welcome back to the Road to Great Health podcast, where we discuss natural solutions to today's worst health problems. I'm Dr. Kevin Lenderman from South Louisiana, and I'm joined by my mentor, Dr. Rob DeMartino. Doc, how's it going?
Doing great, my man. How are you doing?
Good. So for those of you that have been listening, Dr. Rob is the architect behind our functional wellness, functional medicine program that we use that have helped so many people. And Doc, I don't think the general public realizes the depth and importance of the hardcore science that we've been bringing them. Like, we have been talking about the science behind why sick people are sick. It's been important stuff.
Yeah, I get messages about it. I definitely get messages about it. And people will be like, some people are really nice about appreciate it. Other people are like, get to the point. And I'm like, it's not that linear. And again, I think it's because people are so used to acute care, right? Like, I got sick, they give me this thing, and I'm better. And that works in the acute care model, but it doesn't work in like a healing science type of model, right? That's disease care. Then there's preventative care, which somehow, I don't know how the hell preventative care got to be alternative, right? Like, it's alternative to actually prevent getting sick, neither here nor there. And then there's like the healing sciences. And once you get into complex problems, it's not impossible, but there's a lot of steps, right? There's no one arch villain that causes all this to this to this to this. So we've taken our time to kind of walk through all of those. But some people are like, well, that's great. Like when I did the mitochondrial DNA stuff last time, on the last podcast, we showed mitochondrial DNA being the trigger. Like, well, great. How do you fix that? Again, there's not one thing. I mean, that's what the whole series was before that. That's what we're finishing up on kind of this series. Like, these are all the things that matter. I mean, these are fundamental things to the body. But what I will tell you is it's a heck of a lot easier than crazy meal planning, crazy restrictive dieting, crazy, 200 different supplements a day. It's a heck of a lot easier than that.
And it doesn't work anyway.
And it doesn't really work all that well anyways, right? Because it never gets to the ultimate cause of it. And I have people send me causes. After that one, I got quite a few people sending me like, well, what about this? Or what about that? What about this? I'm like, you're downstream. All of that stuff happens. All of these drugs are targeted at those problems after the mitochondria damages and leaks into the system.
Yeah, for
Just
sure.
fix that.
So, Doc, if you'll bear with me a few minutes, and I've been working on this, so I hope it's good.
Oh, always. I love it.
I wanted to recap everything that we have walked through in just a couple of paragraphs here. And if you guys are just catching this podcast for the first time, go back to podcast 15. And from 15 until today, which is number 22, for the last 8 podcasts, we have walked through exactly what has happened in your body that has caused chronic conditions. And so the first 5 of those, we talked about what Dr. Rob has coined the 5 Archimedes levers. These are the 5 big leverage points that we can crank in order to fix what is going on in your body. We talked about vitamin D. We talked about leptin, melatonin, MSH, and UB rates. Those are the 5 big leverage points that you can pull to hold up the 4 pillars of human health. So imagine your health is a roof, and there are 4 pillars holding that up on each corner. Now, the first one of those pillars that we talked about is redox potential. Now, that's the scientific name for can your body take in and use energy properly? Are your mitochondria able to produce energy or not? And whenever that one fails, then you start to get high cellular mutation, which is heteroplasmy rates. We talked about that last week. So when we say we want you to have high redox potential, the ability to use and make energy, and that's going to give you low heteroplasmy rates, which is very low percentage of mutated cells. And then today's podcast is going to be about the last 2 pillars holding up this roof, which is apoptosis and autophagy. And that is repairing and replacing those damaged cells. So these 4 pillars are, can you make good energy? And is that causing you to have low cell mutation? And can you take those cell mutations and either repair or replace them so that your health can be functional and work correctly, and you can live a long, healthy life and, be that 90-year-old that's still spry and running around and enjoying themselves? Or are you going to be in a nursing home at 65 years old? These are the 4 pillars that actually allow you to live a long, functional, healthy life. How was it?
Man, you did great. I'm like having a proud papa moment of it. You did really good. Yeah. That was great.
Yeah. So I was listening in all those seminars over the last 12 years.
I knew it.
Right? So today we're going to get into autophagy and apoptosis.
Yeah, two of my favorite topics, just because they're such pivotal portions of your immune system. Obviously coming up of a time, where COVID was a big conversation. We were talking about immunity and everything else like that. You got to remember that most people will look at their immune system as it just kills invaders, right? It's just going to kill bacteria. It's going to kill viruses. And it does that, right? But that's a small chunk of what it does. It's not at war every single day, thankfully. It's going to spend probably 90% of its energy doing cellular cleanup. It's like a very elegant janitorial service, right? It's going to repair cells that are damaged, and it's going to replace cells that are not savable. So think of this like, an insurance adjuster, right? If you get into a car accident, you go over there and the insurance adjuster looks and says, that's not too bad. It's minor damage. It pays for us to fix this, right? It pays to us to expend the money and expend the effort to repair this problem. It's not that bad. Versus if they come out and they're like, this car is totaled, right? There's no saving it. There's not worth putting any money into this. It's not worth putting any effort into this. Just scrap it and get a new one. And that's kind of what it is. Your immune system is looking at these cells going, that's not too bad. It pays for us to try to fix this. And it wants,
autophagy.
And that's autophagy. It wants to try to repair cell structures as much as possible. That is way more efficient, right? Imagine every time something goes wrong with your car, you got to get gas, you got to change oil, you just get a new car. Not efficient, right? Your body wants to keep these cells around and keep them functioning well as long as they possibly can. Because the longer they last, the longer you last. But then if it's not able to be fixed, or that cell has run its course, now it's got to get completely replaced. And this is what stresses out our immune system is now these systems your immune system is constantly under attack, but it's just because the rate of cellular mutation, what we talked about last week, the amount of heteroplasmy, the amount of damage that we're doing to our mitochondria and that DNA that's spilling out into the blood system, these immune systems are on 24/7. Its design before was, you're going to get rid of millions of cells a day, right? You got to do this process constantly. And even that process is under stress right now. So where your immune systems are stressed out, and then it gets it to the point where it kind of puts it in a situation where if the energy debt goes down, right? So if we're not running with enough energy to do everything, we still have a certain quota of cells that have to go out. Right? There's still a certain amount of people. So it's like, all right, well, normally we would repair this one, but we're going to sell it anyways. Right? Again, think of it like a restaurant. The food quality starts to go down, but they got to turn tables. Right? We got to get them out to get the next appointments in, the next, reservations in. So now they're going to send out food that's not so great. If it's completely destroyed and burned, then they're going to throw it out. But if it's good, sell it. Let's just get them out and get the new ones in. Your body has to start making deals and compensations. But these cells don't work right. And the more that we fall behind, the worse our health gets.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've heard you describe this before with heteroplasmy and autophagy and apoptosis. Like, if we have a factory that makes, say, paper towels, and the clinic's running good, or the factory is running good, there's money in the bank, the employees are showing up, the managers are doing a good job, you're going to have high quality paper towels, like you're making Bounty paper towels. Well, what if somebody, robs the bank account, the management goes on strike, the employees get bad, you still have that quota. So now you're making great value paper towels or sparkle paper towels.
The product suffers.
The product suffers. And that is exactly what's happening in 2026 and really over the last several decades with the environment that we have created, with all the things Dr. Rob and I has been talking about that's damaging us today that we didn't have in hunter-gatherer days. And so trying to get your redox potential, your heteroplasmy, your autophagy, and your apoptosis correct really should be a part of any, program worth its salt. And if you guys will go back and watch that podcast 15 to this one, you will know more about this than most doctors. I mean, you will understand why the body goes into sickness and why it goes into chronic disease probably more than your physician knows.
Yeah, it's definitely true. Again, it being someone who's taught this for a long time now, I'm kind of just still systematically amazed at when we talk about these topics, most people are kind of unaware of what I'm talking about. And again, there is no supplement for redox, right? There is no one supplement for redox. There is no, when people say, well, how do I repair my mitochondrial DNA? Again, we're 20 something podcasts deep here talking about that exact ideology, right? It's not, I wish there was one thing that I could just give you or do. It makes it do that, but it doesn't, and then how do I keep my immune system strong? I mean, I can't tell you how many times people bring me in lab works and stuff like that. And there's all these immune system markers on there that are off. And again, they're typically told them, I'll ask, I'm like, hey, what'd your doctor say about this? I say, well, some people are just like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they have immune system dysfunctions. But again,
sick people are like
that. Right.
Yeah.
Chronic diseases like that. But their mindset is acute care, right? Their mindset is acute care. There's got to be some sort of bacterial infection that you got that we are fighting. And if that doesn't happen, they don't consider the fact that the immune system does any of this cellular repair. They don't consider the fact that, look, when you're putting trillions of cells off the line, some of them are going to be lemons, right? I mean, right? Like, I never forget the first time I bought a smartphone, and I held out for a really long time. I had a flip phone forever. When I actually went in to buy my smartphone, the people at the counter laughed at me because they were like, look at this guy with this thing. And I bought two. I bought one for me and one for my wife. And hers worked perfectly. Mine didn't work from the day I took it out of the store. I had to bring it back 2 days later. Like this thing just doesn't work. They had to give me a completely new one, right? There's going to be lemons, right? These cells are complicated. They do lots of things, and that's okay. The average person's going to probably make, they say, about an average of 100,000 cells incorrectly a day. That's normal, right? Mm-hmm. But it's your immune system's job to stay in front of these guys. Well, now what if that becomes 200,000 or 300,000 or 400,000 or 500 or millions? That's where we are now. And when people say our immune system's overwhelmed, and I want to support my immune system. Yeah, but you have to take the pressure off your immune system first. Like your immune system is that diligent employee. You've got them, I've got them, that they do everything for you. They kill themselves. And then you say, I really appreciate you. I'm going to take you out to lunch. And they feel so much better. But then they come back to giant sacks of paperwork I put on their desk, right? It really would help them if I just took the paperwork away, right? Yeah. Help them do the work. Right. They don't need support. They need everything to work efficiently and not fall behind.
Yeah, like I'm sure a lot of our audience members have heard people before say everyone has cancer cells in their body. And that's a true statement. But when redox drops and heteroplasmy goes up, those cell mutation levels get so high that you can't properly run the repair and the cleanup and the replacement of those cells. And then those cells get a hand up, and then now we're off and running.
Yeah.
And so that is true that we all have mutated cells in our body, but you have to keep them under control by taking care of redox and heteroplasmy and these other things.
Yeah, man, the body is incredibly complicated. If you ever have the chance, I mean, we're in Vegas, but we have the bodies exhibit, down there. If you ever get a chance to see that, I mean, it is the most wild thing. It's like, how do we ever stay alive at all, ever, right? Like it's so complicated of everything that it does. But the simple truth of the matter is, if autophagy breaks, you're going to find that in autoimmune disease. And if apoptosis breaks, you're going to find that in cancers and neurodegenerative disorders, right? The immune system eventually
will explain that a little bit more.
So
get into that a little bit more.
Okay, so in that ideology of repair, right? So we want to be in the process of repairing these cellular structures. Your body likes repair more than replacement because, like I said, it's less difficult. So there's this concept in science that we call Hayflick limits. Hayflick limits are how many times a cell can be replaced over the course of its lifetime. So we're going to pick an arbitrary number. We'll say 20 times, right? So people may be familiar, a bunch of years ago, it was really popular. Everyone was talking about telomeres, right? Yeah. So on your DNA, on both sides, because your DNA is a strand and it's like this, you have little caps like you have on the aglets on your shoelaces, right? And those guys are called telomeres. And every time a cell has to be replaced, those telomeres shorten. So think of it like a candle that just starts to burn down. So say that limit is 20 times. Well, if you run through that 20-time limit over 100 years, then you last 100 years. Those cells last you 100 years. If you run through them in 50 years, but they're supposed to last you 80, then your body goes, crap, I can't divide this cell anymore. Right now, that's why we want to be repairing them. because every time we got to completely replace it, we take one click off of our Hayflick limits and our DNA gets a little bit shorter. If we repair it, we don't have to do that. Now, certain cells in your body repair very quickly. Like your skin cells repair super fast, weeks. Your brain cells take years. So we want to be repairing the brain, not replacing the brain, just because the amount of time it takes for those Hayflick limits to replace. So now all of a sudden, say you go through it in 50 years. Now you're left with a cell that's old. It can't do anything anymore. So it's got two choices. It's either going to sit there, take up resources, but actually not contribute anything to the group. And everybody knows somebody like that, typically at work, right? They take up resources, they don't contribute anything to the group. Or it's going to say, crap, I have to make it another 30 years. So I have to break all the rules to try to survive, to contribute. And what happens when cells break rules and start rapidly dividing to try to make a little bit of energy? That's called cancer.
Not good.
Not good.
Yeah.
Right. So this ideology of, oh, we got it. No way. Right. These cells are turning over too fast. Your body is breaking down too quickly and you're going through these Hayflick limits too fast. Because the more that these things have to go, the faster the damage. I mean, with EMF and blue light and all the things we've spent time talking about, the amount of damage that your body can accrue right now, it doesn't have any concept that we could damage it that quickly, that aggressively.
Right.
Right? Like we don't even have, people say, well, you make inflammation. We don't even have antioxidants inside of our body that our body makes that can handle the amount of energy loss that we're getting right now.
Right.
So when you're putting these systems constantly under stress, eventually you're putting the body into a position where it's backed into a corner and it's going to it's either going to shut down or do crazy things to survive. And one of my mentors said this week, and I love the expression. He said, time without health is just suffering.
Wow.
And he's right.
Yeah.
And I watch it every day with patients, and it breaks my heart. And it's why we do these podcasts, and it's why everything else happens, because it is the truth. Because if you can add these pillars and that quality, you have the time, but it's not suffering.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so with autophagy and apoptosis, what are some of the mechanisms that someone could improve the ability to do those things? Is it really just better redox?
It's a major function of it, right? So it's a major function of it. We want to do everything we can possibly do to keep the cells making energy and having them do that efficiently, right? So a lot of people are familiar when they talk about like terms like mTOR and AMPK. Those guys are, so mTOR is basically a process in your body where your body goes into building, right? That is an anabolic process, right? So anabolic, think like anabolic steroids, builds, right?
Yeah.
Kids get bigger. So if people eat like truckloads of protein, things like that, they're in a growth stage. But we also want to be in that repair stage. And that's where people have calorie deficits, right? That's why fasting becomes such a big ideology of what people will try to do. Because when they go into the other side, they're in a repair mode, right? So they have to be able to make and utilize energy efficiently. And there's going to be a point where energy runs out. Right now, we just constantly are stimulating, right? We're constantly stimulated with blue lights, right? You got 2 extra seconds, you're on your phone, checking your email. And again, I'm guilty, right? Sometimes patients will see me at lunch and I'm out trying to get food and I'm answering like 3 emails because if I get them done, then I can get, it's a little more things done for the day. And they'll come up and they'll like try to get my attention. I'll be like, oh, hey, but I'm rushing. Yeah. That constant stimulation for us, like we're running. And then like, okay, I did everything. Now I'm going to try to lay down to go to sleep. And then you're like,
yeah,
right.
Right.
All of that stuff is constantly pushing us. And now we're adrenaline rushing through it. And we start skipping these stages. And doctors miss this on labs, like so violently to the point that I know we've talked about labs for years. If you look at your lab work and you look at your immune system, right, you'll have your white blood cells. And the doctors really won't panic about your white blood cells unless they're really high or really low, right? But think of white blood cell as your police, right? They're your good guys that are roaming around for bad guys doing bad things or people who shouldn't be doing things that they should, right? So if there's a bacteria, it's going to get it. If there's a virus, it's going to get it. If there's cells that are broken, it's going to help to try to fix the problem, right? So they're your good guys. But then when you look underneath that, there's all different categories of white blood cells. You have neutrophils, you have lymphocytes, you have monocytes, you have eosinophils, you have basophils, all different kinds. and it'll give you a percentage. So if you have a white blood cell count of 5 on lab work, that means in that test tube there was 5,000 white blood cells. And now they're going to go through and they're going to look at what percentage, basically, if you think of your white blood cells are cops, what percentage or what type of police that are out on the field, right? You got your regular guys who are doing patrol, you got your paperwork guys, you got your SWAT team, right? You got the heavy duty guys that are going to come. So a lot of times what happened is white counts will be normal because there's no active infection. We're not at war. We're not sending in additional troops. But then you look and you're like, but all of these percentages of the types of white blood cells are thrown off. You don't send in the SWAT team for a parking ticket, right? They only call those guys when there's something big to be done. But it doesn't look like an active infection. So years ago, now it's probably about 12, 13 years ago now at this point, they used to have levels, like, when you look at your lab work, there's always the reference ranges on the sides, like this should be between this number and this number and that number and that number. But those would flag so often, and it would confuse all the doctors so badly because their white counts would be normal, but their differentials, meaning what types of white blood cells they had, would flag. And that's when people would get, well, some people are just like that. So now what they did, instead of learning what that means, they just convinced the labs to not put those reference ranges on.
Yeah, they took
them off. Right? So if you look at your lab work, all of it will be there, except those will say not established. BS. Right. They were established a while ago. They took them off because everyone would add, because then a patient's going to look and say, hey, doc, like, why is this one bolded? Why is this out of range? And, some people are just like, that's not an awesome answer. But it means your immune system is doing something. It's just not attacking viruses and bacteria is kind of like the way that we think it is. It's trying to heal cell structures. And those are the dead giveaways that this is happening, but they actually purposefully hid it from you on your lab work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see those off all the time. Because by the way, on Dr. Rob's blood work, we put them back.
Yeah, we put it back. Yeah, we go with those
we
markers.
We put them back on there. Yeah, they're on there, on our blood work. Yeah. And, one of the, if anybody out there has heard of autophagy or apoptosis, and people have these days, it's in the conversation of fasting. Yeah. Over the last 5 years, maybe a little bit more, since intermittent fasting has become kind of a fad, that's where everyone's talking about, it improves your cellular cleanup. It improves your apoptosis and your autophagy.
Yeah. Well, they look at it as the idea of you put yourself into an energy deficit so severely that your body has to basically eat up some of those cells and recombine them into other things. So it forces cellular cleanup. And that's completely true. And there's really two sides to this. The first side is the way that we eat now is never the way that we were designed to eat, right? Like when doctors started this whole graze throughout the day nonsense, like that's not how we're designed. Like you ate when you could, and if there was food around, right? It wasn't like you could just drive to the corner store or get whatever food you want, whenever you wanted type of thing. Is you ate these meals and you weren't eating all the time. This ideology of snacking and these constant meals, that screws us up because we're not really designed to do that. But the second side of it is, if you go back to when we started the 5 Archimedes levers, autophagy and apoptosis is controlled by those 5 different hormones, right? Melatonin, MSH, leptin, vitamin D, and UV rates. That's what does this. So this is what should be done every single night of your life, as long as you have your circadian rhythms and your mitochondrial health in check, right? So when people always say like, well, I try to do the fasting thing. Again, in my world, that would be like me not doing a stitch of paperwork for every patient I saw for the entire month. But then I took off the last week and I try to catch up. But nothing else gets done. I don't see any other patients. I don't get to go home. I just have to constantly catch up on paperwork. Versus, isn't it easier like if every day I just do the paperwork for those people that day and then the next day I show up with a clean slate? Doesn't that keep me ahead of the curve rather than falling behind and make it like not so dreadful for those last couple of days of the month where you're trying to catch up on paperwork? But that's the idea.
So intermittent fasting is not necessarily a bad thing to play catch up. But if you're doing these other things right, you should have proper autophagy and apoptosis without having to cram all your paperwork in one day, without having to just force your body to go into autophagy and apoptosis like this, you want your body to do this every night by controlling all those 5 levers that we talked about, and your body will naturally do cell cleanup. If you keep your redox up, your heteroplasmy rates low, and proper autophagy and apoptosis, you can stay ahead of the game. So when patients ask us, and Doc, I know we get this all the time, it's like, well, what do I do when I leave here? Because, they came in feeling terrible, but, barely existing. And, after some treatment, they start to feel so much better. They kind of are like, I don't ever want to leave here. Like, I don't ever want to go backwards. No, we're just getting you caught up, and we're putting the mechanisms in place where your body's going to keep doing better. It should be doing better in a year than it is right now, because your body is actually going through the mechanisms that it was designed to do.
Yeah, it's not that intermittent fasting is bad, but whenever you talk to anybody about the ideologies of like autophagy, especially, that's all they ever talk about. It's never talked about like this is the way that it's supposed to do it daily. Like, well, that's just the way you catch up. Yeah, sure. And again, granted, we messed that up a little bit because it's part of the social norms that we've changed. But they never talk about the other side, ever. Ever. Like, you could Google it, you can ask questions, docs, like, it never comes up. Because again, they're only acting in chemistry. They pay no attention to the energetics and the biophysics of the body, which is really where all of the good stuff starts to lie. And yes, you do get where people at the end of this, they like start getting like a bit of separation anxiety from me to like, well, I don't have to leave, right? I'm like, but you're better, right? Like, it's fixed. It also looks good on blood work. Like, everything is good. It's like what we worked so hard to do. And part of what we did here was, yes, we have to also help you get caught up, but we have to give you the education. When you know this, if you run this, it will make you stay well forever, right? These are the things that I know you do it. I do it every single day to make sure that I stay well ahead of the curve, right? I want to be efficient, right? In that ideology of work smarter, not harder. You want your body to work that way. And if you take the things that we've educated you on to do that, now, doing them naturally, it takes a long time. That's where we speed things up. What are the big leverage points for people, right? Which ones are more important than others for certain people? How can you, expedite that process? We use a lot of technology in the clinics and home-wise to be able to make sure people can do that a little bit faster, because these repair processes, they take time. I was talking to a patient this morning and she got in a real bad car accident, and she was like, I was doing so great, and now I'm so screwed up, and I've been so screwed up for a while. And it's unfortunate, right? You could slip and fall and break a bone, and it could take a second for that to happen, and then you got 8 weeks of healing. It's not a very fair time exchange. So that's what I'm saying. If you lose this ground, it's not a one-to-one, right? It's not like, oh, I hurt myself for one day, it takes me one day to get it back. No, if you hurt yourself, it takes a while for the body to heal and replace all of that damage. It's a lot easier to damage it than it is to repair it. If you can expedite those time processes or stay in front of it, again, like you said earlier, and 100% right, all of these things we talked about put you in the 99% category of people, because most of your doctors don't know this, so won't even talk to you about it or take the time.
Right. Well, in today's world, in today's technology-driven, stress-driven world, we have almost created the perfect environment to screw up these 5 levers, our vitamin D, leptin, all these 5 levers, and screw up our energy, our redox, our energy system, and our heteroplasmy, and our autophagy and apoptosis. So we are bombarded by things that screw up all of these systems that we're talking about. We're more stressed than ever. We're inside, out of the sun more than ever. We don't get morning red light like we should. We don't sleep like we should. We have the worst food as ever. All of these things are just bombarding us. And so one of the things that really hit me that I heard Dr. Rob say a few podcasts ago, you have to aggressively work against these things. This is something that you can't just sort of hope it happens. Like, in today's world, you have to aggressively work towards getting your vitamin D. And I don't mean supplements. You could go back and watch that podcast, and taking care of your melatonin and protecting your sleep and reducing your stress level and wearing things like the blue blocking glasses to prevent the blue light at night. You have to aggressively do these things. And it's just because of the environment we live in.
Yeah. And the sicker you are, the more aggressive you should be. right? You know, like that, you should be aggressive you have to be aggressive now just to keep your health, right? What I do now is pretty aggressive. If I was sick, I would do it 10 times harder than what I do now, because that's the road out. And you know, a patient sent me a message, a prospective patient sent me a message and was naming all these things she thought caused autoimmune disease. And then at the end, she wrote, "Who knows?" and put the little emoji thing that does like this.
Yeah.
And I was like, I actually went on AI and I was like, how do I say I know without sounding conceited? Right? But again, it's so stuck because there's so much noise. I unfollowed 2 different influencers today because I'm like, I can't. Like, I've tried to have these conversations with you guys. You just don't want to hear it. Go build your big gym muscles in the gym with the blue lights and all that sorts of stuff. And these giant muscles that they got on them. Yeah, I'm sure the chicks like it and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, when your heart has problems, right, it's going to go one place. I've had this conversation today. It's going to go one. It's only a certain amount of energy in the system, right? So you have to fight aggressively for your health, but you have to cut through the noise of really what's the important stuff. Otherwise, you will kill yourself and work really hard and get very, very, not very far with your health, but be aggressive with these things. It's beautifully, the science is incredibly complicated. The steps are beautifully simple. Right. And that's why I tell people, like, this is way easier than everything else. You just have to know what the leverage is.
Awesome, man. I like it.
Me too.
I really hope these last several podcasts have, at least if you haven't understood all the science, I at least hope they've shown you that the science is there. You may not have had to understand everything we talk about, but just know that we understand it.
And there's the path.
And that we know, there's a path. And the technology we use to find the path is complicated. And the trying to figure out what each patient's puzzle pieces, where all these things are broken, and how do we repair each one, that's really the science behind what we do. And that's why I have to go to Vegas and see Dr. Rob 4 times a year and study with him and mess around at his clinic. And so I hope you guys really have enjoyed these more scientific podcasts, and make sure you go back and start at 15 and watch from there. And if you watch them, kind of binge watch them, and you'll understand how one of these things flows into each other. Doc, any final thoughts?
No, I mean, a ton, obviously, but yeah, I think we did a pretty good enough job. And again, don't get overwhelmed by the science, right? Like I said, just know that the path is there. But now we've given you the beacon of light with all of these ones that say, okay, so every time you make a decision about your health, it's going to be, is it going to do one of these 5 things or one of these 4 pillars? Right? That's the question now. Yeah. Does this supplement do that? Does this diet thing do that? Does this doctor do that? Does this medication do that? We literally are giving you the answers towards that. So now every time you think of any of these things, you see Dr. Kevin and I on each shoulder, like, you know, picture us sitting on your shoulders going, well, is that going to really repair your mitochondrial DNA, or is that working too far downstream, right? The road is there, and it gives you that clarity. Even if you don't understand everything, it completely changes the lens of how you view your health and how you get your health back.
I love it, man. That's great. Hey, thank you so much for joining us. Make sure you share this with someone else out there that may have chronic problems. And I hope that it really helps them, because that's our mission, is to try to help as many people as absolutely possible live a better life. Doc, we'll see you next week, man. Thanks for joining us.
How's it going?
Thanks, guys.